From questions about cucumbers to homes on cul-de-sacs, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show with Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and James DeFreitas, the son. For the next hour, call in with your questions in gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Locally, call 813-289-1860. Toll free 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and you are?
And I'm James DeFreitas, the son.
I love our little Hawaiian guitar behind us there. We might make a big announcement that we are now the Auction Florida Real Estate team, and that's still the www, I guess, which we don't have to really worry about using, but AFLRE.com. We're with RE/MAX Metro, and we are now heading up their auction division.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're really excited about that. They've never had an auction department at RE/MAX Metro before, and so this is going to be a brand new division for RE/MAX Metro, and we couldn't be happier to be part of their new team.
Well, that's very true. We met with Mr. Rick Brown, and what a great guy. I mean, you get to meet the owner. You know, we weren't even so sure. We said, well, it's the owner. You know, owners sometimes can be nice guys, and sometimes, yeah. And with Rick, such a great guy, he kept saying, hey, we can do this, we can do that.
Sure.
And we said, what a guy who thinks, you know, outside the box. Let's make something bigger and better.
Absolutely, yeah. Sometimes owners can be like, hey, you're not too good at math.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know, people say things, and sometimes they don't think. You know, I don't care if you're big and rich or not. You know, you got to think about what you're saying, and sometimes people do, and sometimes they don't. But
sure, and the nice thing is that I am pretty good at math, and good enough in math to move over to RE/MAX Metro.
Hey, yeah, the math numbers just worked, didn't they?
They sure did.
And so we are happy that we're there, and we want you to think about using us. If you have that property, and we work with I had someone call me last week and said, hey, I'm outside of RE/MAX. I'm outside of the old firm you were with. Could you work with us? And I said, sure, we can. Yeah, I mean, we work with everybody. And if you've got a property that's long in the tooth and you need auctioneers, and we are both licensed Florida auctioneers, which we think you should be, because if you're not, you know, let's say the restaurant comes up I think there's going to be like a third of the restaurants out there who are not going to reopen, and they need to sell. And if they needed to sell their equipment, well, you need to be a licensed auctioneer to be able to sell all that $50 or $60 or $70 or $150,000 worth of equipment that might come up, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I would say today, too, if anybody wants to give us a call about real estate or gardening, you can certainly give us a call today at 813-289-1860, or if you want to call toll-free, it's 877-969-8600.
8600. There you go. You're sounding, you know, I first started in radio. I think I told you like 40 years ago, hey, this is, I kept thinking, oh my gosh, you have to have
the big boomer.
I don't smoke 20 packs of cigarettes a day. How am I ever going to fit in? But you're remembering that number. You know, I think of your old Mustang, since you had a Mustang that had a 289 in it, right?
It did.
So when I think of the 813, I think of the 289 that you had in your Mustang, and then, of course, our station here at 1860 or 1860, or you could say 1860. But I remember, I always think, and I don't know why I think about your 289, but that's a number a way for me to remember that.
Sure, at least the middle part anyway.
Yeah, well.
So anyway, we do have a little bit of housekeeping that I thought maybe we'd go over. Last week, we had a guy call in. It was probably, 45 seconds before the end of before we were going to be finished with the show. And very interesting question that he asked, a very specific question that he asked, and it was real estate based. And he asked about something called a sale leaseback. And I'm glad that he asked the question, because my understanding of it didn't sound like I fully understood the question, and I didn't fully understand what he was getting at. But I have now educated myself a little bit on what a sale leaseback is. And I have an article in front of me, and it says, "The sale leaseback, the king of off-balance sheet financing." And basically what it breaks down to, and this may become something much more important going forward, in the sense that, because of the COVID and having a lot of problems with cash flow, what it ultimately allows people to do is, say they owned something in a corporation. say it being a business, a commercial property, or something of that nature, they can literally sell off the property and then lease back that property to themselves. And it's kind of a way to free up some capital and to get that off the balance sheet. So, so again, I won't go into it too much in detail, but I did go and look that up, and I wanted to take a moment just to clarify that question. Just like in horticulture, there are a gazillion topics that you could talk about in real estate, and I'm not going to know all of it any more than you're going to know the 5,000 different kinds of ferns that probably exist around the world.
Yeah, I'm not always sure. People will sometimes do that too. I call it stump the star. They'll send me a picture of something they brought back from New Guinea and say, "What is it?" And I'm going, "Well, it's from New Guinea." And sometimes I know, but a lot of times when somebody has something that's really weird, looks like a spaceship, it's sometimes difficult. I mean, there are millions and millions of plants that you might come across. I said, look, being a lawyer or a doctor might be easier than trying to know all the plants and insects and diseases that are potentially out there. And I think I'm kind of a good general practitioner when it comes to knowing knowing most of things when it comes to look at this plant, look at this tree. And speaking of that, I went out to see Conrad, who called us last week.
Oh, yeah.
He lives right
Conrad,
here.
yeah.
Lives in Tampa.
You said he was a delightful soul.
Nice guy. Served our country. I told him thanks for serving our country. We'd been in the Navy, been injured, and I was just so happy. You could just tell he was a good guy. And, of course, he called us. He was one of our second caller, I think, on our shows. And I thought, what a delight of a guy.
And it sounds like he found the show, too, by searching the dial. He couldn't find that other gardening show, which is no longer on the air.
The one I used to be on for years and years and years.
Right, back when it was still a good show. And so now, if people want to get us and they still want to hear about gardening and or real estate, they can get us every Sunday morning from 7 to 9 a.m. And that's a new time, too, for us. I mean, we were, for the first month or so, we were doing from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., and now you get to listen to us for that full 2 hours.
2 hours. Well, let me say this about that.
So we do have some additional gardening questions that came in off of the AskMrGreenthumb.com website. And again, the Mr. is just MR. It's not MISTER. Some people go to search for that on the internet, and they that takes you to a different website. And I think that's for selling marijuana. Yeah. And I don't think we want to. So we don't want to be associated with that unless, like I said, unless they'd like to sponsor the gardening show.
Joe's in there saying, hey, that CBD oil might be helpful.
So we have a question that had come in from a Linda Mahoney. And she gave us permission to use her name. So
good.
Yeah. So anyway, so one of the questions that she was asking about, and again, I cringe a little bit with this question because it's a little bit everything's politically charged now. But she did ask about weed killer, and she said we live in a condo complex and have many different kinds of weeds taking over, including vine types that are killing the little bit of grass that we have. We need some weed killer that's dog friendly, environmentally friendly. We need serious help. Thanks. What do you recommend?
Well, she didn't say, is it St. Augustine or Bahia?
She did not indicate that.
That makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean, here's the one tidbit I'm going to kind of add to this, and it was kind of trial by error, and it was listening to a friend of mine, Mr. Shane, who was, he's in the same camp. He wants something environmentally friendly, he wants something that's dog friendly, and all of that sort of stuff, and I get all of that. But your choices, in my mind, because he went down the gamut. He trying to see what he could come up with. He got a propane torch, and
he burned down the neighborhood.
Well, and this has become a popular thing now, where you have these long torches to go out and burn weeds with. And I'm not going to go against that kind of thinking. But the one thing I would add to that is, just as Stan was joking about, is make sure that when you buy the propane torch, you also buy our fire extinguisher. We won't even go there, but I can't imagine the amount of accidental fires that have been started to try to get rid of incidental weeds.
And God loves Shane. I look at him as my surrogate son, but I remember him as being a youngster, and I was always a little leery because nothing against Shane. Shane is a very smart young man, but he always wanted to push the envelope just a tad, and I was always afraid, You know, he's going to say, "Come on, James, let's jump off the roof."
Yeah,
and see
I learned
if this parachute will work.
I learned early on that what worked for him and worked beautifully for him did not always work very well for me. So I always, now it's kind of like take 10 steps. I see him do stuff today as an adult, and I'm still like, let's check that out for at least 10 more steps, take a picture of that, and not participate. That's kind of my philosophy, because he definitely has more of the ability to walk on water than I do.
A couple of things I would say. First we need to find out what's probably St. Augustine. But I hate to say, one of my good friends, Jack, years ago, who was in repair of stuff, who did repair on refrigerators and stoves and stuff. I still have a hole in the back of my refrigerator where he did a great job. But anyway, love Jack. I always look at that hole in the back there.
Oh, yeah, Jack Fanino.
Yeah, I love Jack. Jack's a good guy. Good tennis player, nice guy. But he put the wrong weed killer down, and he killed his yard.
Oh, 2,4-D.
Yeah, he used 2,4-D on a St. Augustine. Well, 2,4-D works pretty well on Bahia. But there again, you got to be careful. And I hate to even say 2,4-D, because 2,4-D was one of the components in Agent Orange. One. Now, it doesn't mean, and let's say there was a big major strength difference between what Dow came up with for that and deforesting Vietnam's forest and what you might use in your yard. That being said, I like to use everything as carefully as I can. If there's an organic, if there's a safe product I can use, that's what I want to go with.
Sure.
Because, it's all of our own environment. And I don't give anybody the high road saying, "Oh, you're more organic than me." We're all. I love the environment. I know you do. I love nature. I love all of the things we can. That being said, as one local guy likes to say a lot, that be said, if you use the thing wrong, you can have a problem. So dose makes the poison, I read something the other day. Water, we all need water every day. Drink 2 gallons of water in an hour.
Too much of a good thing.
And it could kill you.
Just like the beginning of our show, too much of a good thing. No.
So you stay with us. Give them the numbers.
Sure, absolutely. You can call in, any of you that are interested in getting your gardening and real estate questions answered. Again, we're here from 7 to 9 a.m. on AM 860 on 813-289-1860, or if you prefer toll-free, 877-969-8600.
Stay with us.
Hi, Darcy the Cow here for Black Cow, the mature manure. Every time you buy a bag of Black Cow, you're helping the environment. Our process helps to repurpose manure so it is environmentally friendly and beneficial for your garden and lawn. Black Cow contains up to 10 times more nutrients and microbes than garden soils. Oh yeah, and it helps to retain moisture too. Your lawn, flower beds, and vegetable gardens will be off to a great start with Black Cow. Everything grows better with sun, water, and Black Cow. Oh yeah, for details, check out our website, at blackcow.com.
Black Cow, the mature manure, Black Cow.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial problems with flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and you are?
And I'm James DeFreitas, the son.
And we're here. And I did get a call the other day from Tampa Bay Magazine. We need to get a picture done afterwards, and Joe's going to be our amazing photog. Joe does everything around here.
He's a technical wizard.
He is. You ask him to try to do something, and he has it done before you turn around.
Right.
So,
he even wears a pointy hat.
Well, he's
not that kind of pointy hat.
I was going to say, I don't think he seemed like a pretty darn good guy to me, so let's not even put him in any kind of category. Certainly not that category. Go ahead.
Anyway, so we have another gardening question here. Gardening question says, "Hey, Mr. GT, this is a question on plants and large pots. We would like to put large planters outside our front doors. It's a 15-story condo, and 2 large pillars in front. Seem to be a big wind tunnel that blows through here. They say in the past that when we've tried this, the wind literally pulls the flowering annuals out of the pots. Can you recommend anything ornamental that would have deep enough roots that would stay in the pot, yet add some color and wouldn't get blown out of the pot?" So, come on, I want that perfect plant that's going to be just perfect for that type of thing.
Wind tunnel. Let's see here. I'm thinking of the great Carmack, when Johnny Carson, you don't remember Johnny Carson that
But
much.
I do remember saying it.
He used to go like this and go, the answer is, he was great. He was so fantastic. One of my buddies, Tony, who's been around forever a day, who worked in all the, worked in Channel 13, and I think he worked for the Tribune, and he has pictures of him and the great Johnny Carson when he was here.
So you don't really like that question very much, do you?
Well, no, I say, are there any more good questions? That's the question. I just put some, I mentioned last week, Kalanchoes. They're in the succulent family. They're going to stay short. We had to cut off some of the old flowers, and all this water we're getting, we're probably going to get a little more fungus. But succulents are pretty tough. They don't seem to fungus up, let's say, like, a rose does. Or
does it have deep roots so that it'd be more likely to stay in a pot?
Well, it's going to stay relatively short. So the wind isn't going...
So you're thinking the uplift
isn't going to
be
there.
nil.
And they're little thick leaves that aren't going to blow off. Let's say crepe myrtles are nice, but crepe myrtles, boom, as soon as the wind comes, you've got all these little leaves everywhere. Now, in the right spot, I think that's not a problem.
It'd be kind of weird to see a crepe myrtle, though, 15 stories up in a condo.
Oh, boy, I've seen folks.
Have you seen that?
You can do all kinds of things. I was even thinking something outside the box, maybe like...
Because they get big crepe myrtles.
I saw somebody the other day were growing caladiums. They have the multicolored leaves. Now, that stays small also.
Okay.
They come in red and white and green and white. But somebody sent me a picture of the day that they had in their yard. And I thought, boy, that's kind of neat. They had like a bed of these caladiums. And
we'll have to put that on the screen, caladiums.
Caladium sometime. Yeah, that was neat. One of the first plants that I grew, actually, when I was at North Shore School a million years ago in St. Petersburg, one of our Mrs. Wedding, who I eventually later worked for her husband, brought in caladium bulbs, and I think we were in like second grade. They handed us these little bulbs, and we put them in some soil, and we grew them out. So it's one of the first plants that Mr. GT ever grew, and I thought, what a neat thing. I know it's a subtle pleasure, and for a lot of people, but right now when you've been COVID-19 at your home forever, sometimes little subtle pleasures, you start to notice a little color in the leaf, a little flower. Begonias.
And it's
are
a
neat.
positive thing that people can do right now, too. I mean, gardening is something you can control. And when everything else feels out of control, gardening is one of these things that you can control to a degree. And as you just pointed out, it can bring that simple pleasure of seeing something change and grow into something beautiful that you help to do for the world.
I agree, and I think it's something we all can do. It doesn't matter your politics, your color, nothing matters.
Right,
everybody can do it, and it's a great thing.
That's a beautiful thing.
You
about
can do
gardening.
it at 6. You can do it at 96.
Right, and what a beautiful thing about gardening is that it doesn't know any of these things that make life less pretty.
I mean, I went out the other day. So I've got some ferns that grew in, and I think the ferns are pretty. They're kind of a Boston fern that came in from my neighbor's yard, and I didn't take them out because I thought, hey, they like being underneath this tree area. It's a natural area. Color in shade areas, begonias, impatiens will take the shade.
Sure.
Now, in the sun, I'm going to put some more marigolds because I've become the marigold king out around the mailbox.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're kind of a seed hoarder.
Well, I like recycling things, and there's nothing. Recycling seeds is nature's way of giving us another new generation.
I know. I think that's great.
So that's a good thing. I was also thinking even canna lilies. Might put those. They might grow even up in a upper story place.
Sure.
Give you something pretty. Don't know if I'd go with a rose, though. I've grown some climbers before. Had those climbers in Clearwater. climbers in Clearwater, and with a clapper, and they did great, and I never did much to them. And they took the wind, they took hurricanes. The thing I like about some of the climbers, I remember especially Don Juan, I had out by the front door, didn't have to spray it, didn't have insects, didn't have fungus hardly, and the Don Juan gave us flowers all the time, nice dark red deep flowers. They do climb, so you need some kind of a little structure for them normally to make them look good. But if you're going to put it on some kind of a little structure, you can buy that at any of the nurseries. I don't want to give them a free advertisement, but any of the big box stores, have things like that. Mm-hmm. And I've been to all of them. I've done commercials for all the major big box stores on 100 stations. Could do it here, but maybe. Down the road, we'll see. But I'm going to say that would be a possible, and you'd be the only person with a rose probably on your 10th floor that probably still would survive.
Sure. Yeah, so that's a lot of good advice on that. And again, if you have any other questions for gardening and or real estate, we're here for the next 2 hours, less than that now. 813-289-1860 or 877-969-8600.
What's that, 877?
So that's 877-969-8600.
8600. I like the way you do that. That's
it's you only can do it for the last four. Otherwise it just loses its luster. You just gotta punch it at the end. That's my little philosophy.
I came in early this morning so I could cut a spot because we needed to get one ready. And Joe in there said,
"That's right, for Remax Metro."
He said, "Can we make this happen?" I said, "My new buddies here gave me this copy just the other day, and can you do it?" And he goes, "Hey, no problem. We'll make it happen right, soon."
Absolutely. Yeah, he's a can-do kind of guy.
So we love it. We might mention to you, of course, that we've had a bunch of gardening questions that have come in via
the website, askmrgreenthumb.com. That's ASKMR, not MISTER. So that's ASKMR, If you want to submit your gardening question, you can, and we'll read out your answer on the air the following week. So it gives you a little impetus to want to call in and or to write in to us so that you can get your gardening question answered. And we'll be back.
Stay with us as the Plant Talk Real Estate Talk continues. Remax Metro is one of Tampa Bay, Florida's premier real estate firms. Proud to support the Ask Mr. Greenthumb Gardening and Real Estate Show. Tampa Bay is a great place to live, work, and play. So if you're thinking of moving here, or if you're already our neighbor, we want to help. Our Remax Metro headquarters is in downtown St. Petersburg, Florida, with additional offices in Pasadena, Treasure Island, and Terra Verde. Finding your way home is easy with Remax Metro at metroagents.com.
The answer.
Have you ever thought about auctioning your home?
At 725. 725 going to a 740, at 725.
Remax Metro encourages you to auction your Florida real estate. Please go to AFLRE.com. That's A for auction, FL for Florida, and RE for real estate. We achieve full market value for your home. Tired of paying real estate commissions? How about 0% commission for sellers? That's right, sellers pay 0% commission. Again, go AFLRE.com. That's Auction Florida Real Estate. That's AFLRE.com.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at AskMrGreenthumb.com. Got questions on gardening, real estate, or both? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am Stan DeFreitas, and you are?
And I'm James DeFreitas.
And we are the dynamic duo. And if you've got questions about, anything that happens in gardening, that's kind of in my domain. And
sure,
real estate, we both can probably answer.
Absolutely. So if you have gardening questions, Stan's the man. And if you have any real estate questions, I'll be happy to take a crack at it as long as it's not about a sale leaseback.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, I heard that question last week, and I thought, somebody's trying to, there's somebody's in the business.
Yeah.
And that somebody's going to say, I wonder if they can answer that, because it's one of those things, obscure kind of things.
It's an obscure question. And I knew when we got it, I thought to myself, man, that's but again, it's kind of like asking you, Stan, give me all the Latin names of all the different ferns that are out there. Well, you could name 5 or 6, but after the 5 or 6 real well, it starts to get more complicated. And then some of the topics in real estate are, extremely complicated. Now, one of the things, we've done lots of talks together at various offices. Mm-hmm. And by the way, we do that for all offices. We'll be happy to come in and talk about our auction business and how we can help your agents, because it doesn't matter who we work with. We're happy to perform auctions for any company. So it doesn't matter if you're with RE/MAX Metro or if you're with Coldwell Banker or any of these other companies who either have an auction department or don't really have an auction department where they don't really know what they're doing. Then we can come in and fill in those gaps and make things happen. So, we help everybody.
Yeah, we had somebody outside of our new organization who's actually in RE/MAX, but a different RE/MAX, called us last week and said, hey,
yeah, RE/MAX Elite.
How about coming and giving a talk to our group?
And we're still in the process of trying to get that going, but everything has, with COVID and everything, it's been a kind of a scheduling nightmare trying to figure out how to get everybody together and doing stuff, because we're kind of in between. It's like we're trying to open up and trying to go back to some sense of normalcy, and yet we're still having Zoom meetings and people that haven't committed to that yet. And I think that's kind of where we're going to be for a while. We're still trying to figure out how to, and then I also think too, we've got a certain mindset that, hey, I really like working from home. I think I'd like to stay working from home like forever.
A lot of folks out there like that. I had a question last week too about trying to grow stuff in the earth box, and they were trying to grow like a seed. They're going to try to grow a crop where you're going to harvest the seed. And the more I read about it, I kept thinking, I don't know, tomatoes in the earth box, lettuce in the earth box, different things. And by the way, I did check the other day, and Blake Wisnet has passed on this last year in 2018.
Okay.
But he lived to 2018. He was a guy, too. He looked like he was in bad health, and yet I remember we put a camera on Blake, and all of a sudden he came to life.
Oh, he was spirited, very spirited.
He was just a great, great guest, and he knew a lot when it came to, if you asked him a question about tomatoes or earthbox, which he invented, and I was thinking the other day, the nice thing about all this rain, it's great, but too much rain, and you get into fungus and root problems. The reason he invented the earth box is because it's up above and it has drainage. And if you've got drainage, then the plant can normally come through it okay. And you start getting where 6 inches of water sits around a plant for 2 or 3 days, and often it's, biocondias.
Sure, and one of the things that's really cool too about that system, having any kind of container box growing, is you're creating something. It's back to the idea. I mean, one of the things I admired about the earth box and Blake is that, one of the things he'd said to us is, hey, we as a country we need to be making stuff. And he definitely believed in that. And hey, we need to make stuff and get stuff and improve upon what we're doing. I saw something the other day in the news, and I think it was the Tesla guy was talking about, we have way too many smart guys going into finance and law, and we don't have enough smart people that are willing to roll up their sleeves and make things. So, again, I don't care if it's an earth box, or something as elaborate as a car. I think we need to, as a society, get back to making things. And even if we can't make stuff right now, we certainly can grow stuff, and we can enhance the beauty and around us. And it's one of the reasons why we're seeing the nurseries and the big box stores, all of their nurseries, just packed. I mean, I've not been able to go in to buy a light bulb. Without, the parking lots are packed, and it's always packed where the gardening section is. Yeah. And again, I expected by June that was going to start to drop off because of the heat, and it really hasn't.
Yeah, normally it does. And normally there's a time where people go, it's just so hot. I know at Earthbox thing, they used to close down every summer because it was just, they go, well, and basically for vegetables, we normally think of spring and fall. Now, I just put in a cherry tomato the other day, little small tomatoes, because I know the little small ones will keep producing all summer long. And so I thought, this is worth doing. In fact, I'm thinking about maybe taking a cutting off the tomato so I can have two. And maybe I thought if I do that, I might put it in a container, maybe bring it in and show that you could have cuttings off, especially with tomatoes. You can get what I call sucker growth sometimes. And sometimes you want to take that off anyway, trying to get the plant, more of height.
Yeah, and that's the beauty thing, too. If you want to bring something in while we're doing the radio show, because we are also filming this as we're recording this and putting this up on YouTube and on your AskMrGreenthumb.com website, it becomes a lot more interactive. We can actually show people what we're doing instead of just discussing what we're doing.
Someone asked me the other day, too, about tomatoes and said, what's the difference between the kind that grow up and just grow all over and the kind that kind of stay short? Well, normally they're either determinate or indeterminate types, and indeterminate types tend to grow and they just keep producing, and you normally have to get a 6-foot ladder to keep it growing. The determinate type is normally a bush type. It's going to be kind of a mid-sized plant with usually a lot of tomatoes that come on at one time. So, depending on what you're looking for, a lot of folks like the determinate because you can get those tomatoes and they'll come on and you have them set, and that's good. And, of course, right now, the hotter it gets at night, you need to go with a smaller variety.
Sure. So the better boys and the beefsteaks, that's something you're going to have to hold on to. We're going to have to wait on. You're going to be having to look more at producing maybe a grape tomato or
cherries or cherry 100s or any of those sweet 100s.
Probably couldn't even get away with a plum tomato either, right? I mean,
you probably do better than the bigger ones, but yeah, I think I'm from this point on. And the other thing, I have some areas where I've got some boxes now where things have kind of died out. And I'm taking some sweet potato cuttings and I'm sticking those in because I thought, I like sweet potatoes and, they're healthy. And I've been on a kick now for a while to try to think of more health, better health. And, sweet potatoes would fit into that. And I'm thinking, what I put in now, we had some last Thanksgiving that I had grown. And I'm taking more cuttings from those and see what we can do. Plus, a buddy of mine, John, also mentioned to me, he said, sometimes you get sweet potato where it kind of sprouts on the edge. Cut that edge off, the corner, put that in, get it to sprout, and another easy way to start sweet potatoes if you want to try to grow some. And they'll take a long time. They're like usually 120 to 140 days. Wow. So it's not like tomatoes, sometimes you'll have them in 60 days,
sure,
75. But if you go sweet potatoes, they're a root crop, of course, and they're a long season. Now, you can eat some of the foliage on new sweet potatoes, too. People don't think about that, but you could mix that in with some of your salads. And the other thing I've been doing is trying to eat more salads and more greens in the last year than ever before.
And I think what kills the thing I would say too that really kills the salad, it's not the salad, it's what you put on the salad. People they'll put all the veggies in there, but then they'll dump blue cheese on it, or they'll dump something that's heavy in fat content on there. So my advice there is, I know oil and vinegar is a bit boring, but at least with olive oil, at least that's a good fat if you're going to ingest a fat. The amount of salt that is in most salad dressings is I'm sure is pretty high. If you ever go down the soup aisle, I was looking at soup the other day and I'm going, oh my goodness, 980 milligrams of salt for one serving. And then I looked at the big cup that it came in, and that was like, you get 2 servings out of that. So guess what? You get to double it.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to my heart doctor. I call him the Wolfman. And I was saying, cut back on salt. And I said, well, try to find processed food that doesn't have salt in it. And he goes, well, good point.
Right. And then the nutritionists out there would go, well, you just said processed foods. That's your problem right there, buddy.
Yeah, I agree. Well, if you get oatmeal, there's no salt, but
it's tough. I mean, the point you're reaching at in terms of the food that we consume, unless you're growing it yourself, it's hard to know. I mean, even some of the I was looking at some frozen fruit the other day, and part of the flash freezing process, they hit it with a slightly brine saltwater type of solution. Well, okay, so it'll keep longer. And that's good. But now, even something that you thought was completely healthy may have excessive salt, especially if you're having heart conditions or high blood pressure or that type of thing. You need to count that as part of what you're ingesting.
Exactly. Well, and that's important for folks. And, that's one of the reasons if you can grow it, and I think people should, and right now maybe a victory garden is a great idea, or maybe we can call it a healing garden. Mm-hmm. I think our country needs a healing garden.
Sure, and that's one of the things that's kind of cool too. Is you're seeing more and more people grow edibles in their around their homes, opposed to just putting in pretty stuff. I mean, pretty stuff's great. Love pretty stuff. But I do think that there is a place for growing edibles, and no, I don't think you're going to put Publix and Walmart out of business by growing stuff in your yard. Anybody that's ever, even if you have a big yard, you're going to grow a lot of stuff, but you're still going to have to supplement it with stuff that isn't going to be in season at the time that you harvest stuff.
I agree. Well, I remember talking to a guy from Publix one time. I said, hey, gardening, getting people to grow stuff. And he got, no, that's not my idea. And it's not my idea. We're not, me and Smitty and the boys, we're not going to do it. And I said, but it's a natural, don't you think?
Yeah, and it's a good time. It's hard to get people to see things if it's not their idea.
Yeah, that was a good example of one I thought, gosh, it would be a neat idea to do something for them, a store that I've known since I was a toddler. And, but, the guys I talked to went, no, we don't do that. We don't want people thinking of growing something their own. I said, why not? Do you really think? I said, if anything, they have more appreciation for what you guys bring in when they grow and they realize that there is a certain level of work to growing that tomato. And in some people, if you don't have success, they'll go, that tomato I grew in the backyard cost me $2. Well, it may. And I realize there's kind of a learning curve. Of course, that's one of the reasons we have Stan DeFreitas' complete guide to Florida gardening, which you could buy from me. From what phone number?
Well, they could definitely call you at 727-423-4794. And we also want to remind folks today that we are taking calls live on the air from 7 to 9 a.m. every Sunday. So if you want to give us a phone call at 813-289-1860 or toll-free 877-969-8600.
Stay with us as the Plant Talk and Gardening and Real Estate continues.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity, and get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
Have you ever thought about auctioning your home?
At 725. 725 calls at 740, 725.
Remax Metro encourages you to auction your Florida real estate. Please go to AFLRE.com. That's A for auction, FL for Florida, and RE for real estate. We achieve full market value for your home. Tired of paying real estate commissions? How about 0% commission for sellers? That's right, sellers pay 0% commission. Again, go AFLRE.com. That's Auction Florida Real Estate. That's AFLRE.com.
Utz Tree Service, that's YUTZY, is singularly focused on complete customer satisfaction and has been for almost 50 years. From initial contact to service completion, UtzTreeService.com will prove that you have hired the best tree care service available. With the most knowledgeable staff and the most advanced equipment, you can be sure that UtzTreeService.com is the most professional tree care company in the Tampa Bay area. Contact UtzTreeService.com today for the highest quality tree care.
Remax Metro is one of Tampa Bay, Florida's premier real estate firms. Proud to support the Ask Mr. Greenthumb Gardening and Real Estate Show. Tampa Bay is a great place to live, work, and play. So if you're thinking of moving here, or if you're already our neighbor, we want to help. Our Remax Metro headquarters is in downtown St. Petersburg, Florida, with additional offices in Pasadena, Treasure Island, and Terra Verde. Finding your way home is easy with Remax Metro at metroagents.com.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial problems with flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am Stan DeFreitas, and you are?
And I'm James DeFreitas.
And we have a caller from Tampa. We've got Joe, and you've got a question about palm trees. Good morning, Joe. How are you?
Welcome, Joe.
Good morning to you. My question is about queen palms. There seems to be different thoughts about whether to trim, not to trim, or how to trim those kinds of trees. Some people think you should just leave them till the fronds fall off. Other people think you should whack them off with a chainsaw. And other people think you should sculpt them with a knife. What's your feeling on that?
Well, as long as the knife or chainsaw is clean, I don't really care. I will say a lot of folks go into what I call the hurricane cut, and that's where they'll leave like 3 fronds up on top. And that was done that way for a long time. The problem is you're putting the palm on a 1 bean a day diet, and it really needs more of those fronds up there. So it really has become a thing now to let more fronds stay. Now, when a frond gets to be yellow and brown, cut it down. It's not doing any good. But a lot of folks, I think all mistakenly want to keep it, to this very top V, a very tight V. And
almost like 11 and 1.
Yeah, and that's too close. So somewhere in between, and I don't really care if you use a knife, you use a chainsaw, or however you want to use it, it's difficult to do. And as a youngster, I've trimmed hundreds and hundreds of palm trees and queen palms, and God was at, make sure you got goggles or glasses on, because I always seem to get something in my eyes.
Is that the one that has a big seed pod that looks like a torpedo that could half kill you?
Sure, it does. It's the most common palm we have, kind of a Brazilian palm. It's Ericostrum Roman Zophianum was the original name, and now it's been changed. It was named originally after a Russian czar, because some Russians in a boat saw it and said, we'll name this after our Russian czar, back when czars were popular in Russia.
And I'm sure our caller knows, but if the other people maybe listening, be very careful when you're trimming anything and you're on a ladder, and especially these. Those things have like a harpoon look to them. I'm sure there have been many people that have been impaled by these things, and please be careful. Hire a professional. Always. I'm seeing UT tree service in a lot of people's future here.
You can call him at 727-323-4303. Carl and his crew would be helpful, and I think that's going to be helpful to you too. So.
All right, thank you. You've answered my question.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks
for
being
question.
part of the show. We appreciate that. And see, it's just that easy. We're not going to make you look bad. I know a lot of people are always afraid to call in on talk shows because, often your opinion is going to be different than the host.
And I think people need to realize we're very approachable, and it's basically two guys talking away, having a good time, wanting to answer questions and to hear about your story. So what could be more fun? And if that interests you, you could certainly give us a call at 813-289-1860 or 877-969-8600.
Might say queen palms usually are not fed well enough. They need both manganese and magnesium is Epsom salts.
Epsom salts, yep.
And so I would apply that to a palm. Plus, I would apply, it also needs the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium.
Sure.
So that's the 3 elements that always in a fertilizer, and it's going to be N, P, and K, always, let's say, 6, 6, and 6, or 10, 10, and 10, or 4, 6, 8. You'll see a bunch of different numbers that can be used. But I like to make sure that it's got a good minor element package, just kind of like us. We also need iron. Plants need iron. We need magnesium. Plants need magnesium. We need manganese. Plants need manganese.
Sure.
So the zinc. We need all these things, and yet often we don't get it in our food. And when you look at our little poor plants and you look at our 1% of organic matter in our soil, you go,
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why the first 3 elements in every fertilizer bag, the N, the P, and the K, is so important.
I agree, and it's something that I thought I should always mention because you should know what you're putting around the plant, and you should know your pH. Most people, when I used to do a lot of home shows, back when home shows actually had people there that answered stuff.
Back when they actually had home shows at the Trop, but
I guess
now they don't have them in there anymore. They'll be going trucking to Tampa.
Yeah, which I've done some for over there as well. But if I do it, it's fine, and if I don't do it, that's fine too. But
a lot of ruler grabbers.
I did like helping people and bringing my pH tester, and I tested thousands of soil samples, and often you can't always tell if it's going to be acid or alkaline. And I remember one of my former talk show hosts I used to work with one time. He was going to play Stump the Star with me on stuff, which guys do. And then I said, well, what is pH of, let's say, 6.8? And he went, alkaline. And I said, and you'd be wrong.
And you'd be wrong.
Because as much as he was knowledgeable, and he was on so many areas, so pH and fertilizers, I thought he was not as knowledgeable as I was. But other areas, I thought he was more. Like all horticulturists, and I know there's got people out there who go, you're probably answering a question when it comes in. I know I do that. When I'd listen to somebody else doing a show, I'd listen to their answer, and I go, okay.
That's not exactly how I would have said it. Well, another area that you're extremely knowledgeable in is in real estate. And so why might somebody consider having an auction for their real estate opposed to just listing real estate as a traditional, in the traditional manner? Why might someone do that?
Probably time factor. Someone who comes in and says, I need to move. I'm relocating to here, and I have to have this place sold. And often you put the agent in a problem. You go, time doesn't matter, but I need it sold in the next 2 weeks, in the next month. And the agent goes, next 2 weeks, month? Normally, on average, it's probably going to take 3 months to 4 months for a house to sell.
Sure.
And maybe longer. And with COVID, we don't even know. Maybe longer. Now, there isn't as much inventory out there as there used to be. Mm-hmm. So that may make your property sell quicker. But for a while, it was kind of a bomb had gone off, and nobody wanted to come out and look at things. Now, I've heard through the industry, there are more and more people who are starting to want to go out and look. If you want to move up to a bigger house, or if you're renting. I know our buddy Brandon always talks about, why do you want to waste your time renting? And he's right.
He's absolutely right.
You should be thinking of buying into a home. And all those factors are true. Timing is important, and if you need to get it done, one thing I like about the auction, and I think you'd agree, is that you get fair market value. I mean, you can say, Zillow says this, or my neighbor, Aunt Hattie, said that. Well, or my aunt said that.
Sure.
Maybe they're right. Probably they're wrong. Or maybe somebody comes in and they're an appraiser. A guy goes, hey, I'm a Mr. certified appraiser. Well, great. Maybe you're 20% high. Maybe your numbers are right, and you're glad those numbers come in when you go to the bank.
Sure.
But maybe you can't sell that property at that price.
Yeah, and that's a good point to make, is that, again, if guaranteeing a home was, if you always had to get an appraisal done, and that guaranteed that you'd sell the home, well, then all real estate agents would be appraisers. And unfortunately, that isn't exactly the way it is. And again, one of the things that's beautiful about an auction is that it does provide fair market value. And again, fair market value means a lot of different things to a lot of different folks. But what it really should mean is a price that a buyer is willing to offer at a price a seller is willing to accept. So again, it's back to this idea, and I said this a week before, and the idea somehow sticks in people's brains is people own real estate, or the bank owns more of the real estate than they do, but they pretend that they own it. They get ready to sell that said real estate, and then they put up this imaginary price backed up by something like Zillow, their Zestimate, which is basically taking statistical data and then formalizing it in such a way that may or may not be accurate. So, you really do want to get fair market value. Auctions provide that as a platform. And again, if you have any real estate questions or gardening questions, you can give us a call at 813-289-1860 or 877-969-8600.
And the gardening talk continues along with real estate talk right here on AM 860, The Answer.
Have you ever thought about auctioning your home?
At 725. 725 calls at 740, at 745.
Remax Metro encourages you to auction your Florida real estate. Please go to AFLRE.com. That's A for auction, FL for Florida, and RE for real estate. We achieve full market value for your home. Tired of paying real estate commissions? How about 0% commission for sellers? That's right, sellers pay 0% commission. Again, go AFLRE.com. That's Auction Florida Real Estate. That's AFLRE.
Remax Metro is one of Tampa Bay, Florida's premier real estate firms. Proud to support the Ask Mr. Greenthumb Gardening and Real Estate Show. Tampa Bay is a great place to live, work, and play. So if you're thinking of moving here, or if you're already our neighbor, we want to help. Our Remax Metro headquarters is in downtown St. Petersburg, Florida, with additional offices in Pasadena, Treasure Island, and Terra Verde. Finding your way home is easy with Remax Metro at metroagents.com.
For everything from questions about cucumbers to homes on cul-de-sacs, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show with Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and James DeFreitas, the son. For the next hour, call in with your questions in gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Locally, call 813-289-1860. Toll free 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we might add, we've had thousands and thousands of folks who have gone to YouTube in the last, 28 days?
Oh, man. The numbers have exploded on going to your YouTube channel, which, again, a real easy way to get to your YouTube channel is just type in Ask Mr. Greenthumb, and that's MR for Mr. Greenthumb, and then they can subscribe when they click on the channel. So, you've had almost 100 subscribers in the last 28 days, and anybody who's ever started a channel, having 100 people sign up in 28 days is quite a lot. I mean, you're not going to compete with the likes of Joe Rogan, who's the he was the YouTube king.
I only want to be half as successful.
Yeah. Well, I think he is still putting his stuff up there, but I think he just signed a big deal with one of the not Hulu, but one of the other competing companies out there for $100 million.
Half of that would be fine. But I'd like to say also we appreciate it when you tell all your neighbors, your friends, garden club people, hey, we used to listen to, in fact, the guy, when I talked with Conrad the other day, he said, I used to listen to your old show and your old partner on the other station. And I said, well, we appreciate that. I said, and I did the show for years and years. I was somewhat pushy. I wanted to say nice things, which I did, about Mark, who was on the other program when he passed on. And, when you work with somebody like you do, like we're doing here, every week, and you do it for a few years, you get to know a lot about the person.
Sure.
And we were friends. I mean, I was disappointed when they decided to go with one guy as opposed to two. But that's typical of radio, the way radio has changed over the years.
Yeah, that's life. And at the end of the day, everything works out for the best. And now we're doing this great show on AM 860, and we're having a great time doing it.
Exactly. So that show isn't there anymore, and we are. So we're kind of filling a niche, if you will.
A niche.
A niche, if you want to say it that way. A niche. We are there to help. And, of course, it's a big niche because we're not only doing gardening, which is, I'm a certified arborist, I'm a horticulturist, worked as an extension agent for 8 years, answered probably 100,000 questions, and wrote a gardening book for Florida, which is number 10 in gardening book history, I'm proud to say.
And 500,000 copies later.
Probably. We've done a bunch, and I've worked in probably 500 eminent domain cases. When it comes to knowing trees and values, I think that I'm better at that. You've helped me with some. We counted one job we worked on. I think it was, 20,000 plants?
Oh, it was a massive nursery. Yeah, it was just huge. And we wound up putting dots and counting rows and everything through the property. And I remember taking this very long, kind of a long view kind of picture. And all of the dots and everything, it went on to the horizon and just blurred. And it was, so that was a pretty big, and that was a weird one too, because typically in an eminent domain case, you count everything up, you tabulate it, and that's what, then whatever percentage of loss it is. But when it's an active nursery like that one was, we were constantly having to go back and go, okay, well, how much real property did you sell? Again, bringing in the real estate idea here. Well, I always think of real property and versus personal property is what I meant to say.
Sure.
And so, it's one of those things where an active nursery where you're constantly having an influx and outgo of plants, you're having to change those tallies as they sell them. Much more difficult than somebody coming in and taking, the government coming in and taking part of your front of your area of your home. Well, that you had 6 plants in the front or 6 trees in the front. You knew you had that. You're not calling up somebody going, hey, I sold that one in the front. So that's definitely a different type of scenario there.
And that was for sure. Well, he was one of those great guys, too, who said, now I moved them from here over to there, and then I sold those there. And I'm going, oh, great. I said,
Mr. Carroll.
Hey, did you keep any records? Well, not exactly. And I'd have to call up David and go, hey, I think it's time for us to start recounting because I'm not sure what he sold and didn't sell, and he's not sure either. So that caused us a little bit of nightmare as far as counting. But especially for a guy like you that's not always that good with numbers and math. No.
Well, as long as I'm good enough to know when I see a better deal at a different company.
Yeah, that's true.
But anyways, yeah. So and again, going back to the real estate topic, and I'm glad you brought that up. One of the things that makes selling real estate via auction unique, and it's just not something you can do with a traditional real estate model, is that we set a date and a time. And for most real estate, we try to get it sold in 30 to 45 days. So typically when people sign up with a regular real estate contract, they get that 180 days. Now, I know, I see it on Facebook just like you do, and I've seen some of it. Nothing against some of our real estate colleagues, but one of the things that they'll do is they'll say, "Oh, hey, I saw put it on MLS, got it sold, and got it sold in 3 hours." And I am always thinking to myself, 3 hours, huh? Well, that's great. Glad that you had such success. Don't let your seller know that you undersold it.
Yeah, it's probably too cheap. If you get it sold that quickly, and it's okay to be the star agent on occasion, but probably if somebody bought it that quickly, then you probably had it priced a little too low.
Yeah, and again, the thing that I would say too with real estate transactions is that, if you sold it in 3 hours, you probably left thousands of dollars on the table. And I don't know about you guys, but here's the thing for me. Try and save $20,000. In a real estate transaction, that could be, done in a matter of seconds with the right negotiating skills. So, and if that's, again, seconds versus years saving, really think about that pricing. Because if you price it too low and it sells in 3 hours, you didn't do your homework very well, and you left a lot of money on the table that your seller doesn't get to keep. And it's tough to put that kind of money away.
Of course, inversely, there's people who go, oh, my property's worth $1 million. And you go, well, maybe it'll be worth $1 million in a few years. Maybe it's worth $800,000 now. If you want to sell it right now. Well, I want to sell it right now, but I still want that $1 million.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and we get that probably more often than not. We'll get into, and it's a tough scenario for the agents. The agents want to take on these higher-end listings.
Sure.
And that's their goal. I mean, every agent, it's amazing. If a company puts out hey, I want to get into luxury listings, you'll have every agent in the company sign up for that particular talk. They'll want to be part of that talk bigger than heck. But the reality of it is they're not easy to sell for a reason. And it takes a lot of cash outlay in order to get those kinds of properties sold, and it's still a maybe. In most real estate transactions, everything's a maybe. But if you want a sure thing, then what you want is a salaried job somewhere else. I was giving a talk one time to some new real estate people that had come into the market, and she goes, "Well, I'd like to have some, I want to be certain." And I'm like, "Well, then real estate may not be the right career for you because there's nothing certain. The one thing I can guarantee you is that it's not certain."
Death and taxes.
Death and taxes, absolutely.
We know those are certain. Well, we know for certain if you have a question pertaining to real estate or gardening and trees, I am an arborist. I'm an arborist that doesn't carry a chainsaw. I let Yutzi and the guys do that. I'm not going up to cut off stuff. That's not. Do I know how to do it? Yes, I could do it if you put me in a bucket truck or something.
Sure.
I have gone up in bucket trucks to look at stuff, inject trees on occasion still. I like to try to help save palms when I can with oxytetracycline. Also, just got some new stuff in the other day, too. I needed some new valves, and I needed some more oxytetracycline, which is an antibiotic used to use on people.
Right. So there again, that's a very safe product. And again, I'm sure somebody would hear that term and go, "Oh my gosh, it's a chemical." Well, yeah, it is, but it's one that we used to use for people, and I think one of the reasons they stopped using it though is in people that would cause your teeth to discolor.
Turn color. Yep.
Yeah, discolor a little bit. So they was turned away for that. But I'd also like to mention too, we had Carl Yutzi on the program a couple weeks back. And when I started asking him some of these questions that, that would maybe be, kind of politically charged, he gave some great answers. Mm-hmm. He doesn't go in there and, he's very surgical in his approach on how he goes in to remove the trees. And one of the things he kept saying over and over again is, well, look, if we have to remove the tree, it's going to be for safety. He kept saying the word safety. Mm-hmm. And I think that's such an important point to point out, is that he's not interested in just going in and trimming every tree down. He's interested in what's best for you, your neighbors, your property, and everything else, and for the environment.
I agree 100%. One of the things I was also going to mention is we've got Steve's going to come in from Plants, Plantz, in another, I think, a week from now. Mm-hmm. And, if you have that office, you need some plants in there. I notice around here they could probably use a few more plants. I see one fake plant in the other room. You need more real plants because it just adds to the ambiance of your office.
I kind of like the fake plant, actually.
Well, it is.
It needs a little dusting.
I think so. I need to check it out. If I'm not sure. I called it fake. It might be real, but I'll tell you when I look at it closer.
Well, the fluorescent lights are really doing a lot for it, I'm sure.
But I'm going to tell you that, if you've got a restaurant, you've got an office, what separates you from everybody else? Maybe having that warm environment. And that's where plant rental business, or maybe buying a plant from Steve at Plants.
At plants.us.
Which would be a great thing. And, of course, they ship plants all over the country.
Plants by mail. Yeah, I can't wait to have him in because he is a wealth of knowledge.
He is. It's going to be a great show. Next weekend, mark that down on your calendar as well. But the plant talk and gardening and real estate talk continues right here on The Answer, AM 860.
Hi, Darcy the Cow here for Black Cow, the mature manure. Every time you buy a bag of Black Cow, you're helping the environment. Our process helps to repurpose manure so it is environmentally friendly and beneficial for your garden and lawn. Black Cow contains up to 10 times more nutrients and microbes than garden soils. Oh yeah, and it helps to retain moisture too. Your lawn, flower beds, and vegetable gardens will be off to a great start with Black Cow. Everything grows better with sun, water, and Black Cow. Oh yeah, for details, check out our website, at blackcow.com.
Black Cow, the mature manure, Black Cow.
Have you ever thought about auctioning your home?
At 725. 725 calls at 740, 725.
Remax Metro encourages you to auction your Florida real estate. Please go to AFLRE.com. That's A for auction, FL for Florida, and RE for real estate. We achieve full market value for your home. Tired of paying real estate commissions? How about 0% commission for sellers? That's right, sellers pay 0% commission. Again, go AFLRE.com. That's Auction Florida Real Estate. That's AFLRE.com.
Look at it and go, well, that doesn't look quite the way I'd like it, and it's never going to be quite the way they want it. I mean, let's be clear. It doesn't matter if you just put in that brand new kitchen. People are going to go in and go, oh man, they went with brown. Oh, I would never use brown. Brown's awful. White. It should be white, and then and then they'll change it to white, and then they'll get ready to sell it, and then they'll go, man, see the kitchen? It's beautiful. It's what? Then the new people come in. They're going to go, Oh, man, I sure wish it was brown.
You never know. Well, it reminds me of a guy we sold a property to. He had a pretty nice carpet in his place. I thought the carpet's not bad. It's pretty nice, pretty new. And he goes, hardwood floors. That's what's going in here.
Oh, yeah.
And
that was a recent one. And actually not too far from 2nd and 2nd near Remax Metro where we sold that one. That was not a huge sale. That was like $500,000 condo. Mm-hmm. For a condo, it was kind of a big sale. But again, that downtown St. Pete area in the museum district, the amount of growth that has exploded. And you having lived there, grew up there in St. Pete, I think you could speak to this more than anybody. The amount of growth and change.
Oh, it's changed totally. I mean, I remember being a child, and you had green benches downtown. You had some churches. You had Williams Park, which are still there. But, I mean, that whole area's become like a fashion hub with restaurants, boutique restaurants. I mean, the whole area has totally, changed.
It's become like the fashionista district. I mean, everything in there, I don't want to use the word trendy because I think some people would think that I'm using that in a negative or a pejorative type of way, but I'm not. What I tend to, when I say that, I think of upscale, younger people coming in, well-to-do young professionals have really come into that area in a way, and I think that's actually I think it's been tremendously positive in terms of seeing that area be renovated and new buildings going up, and I think somewhat to the chagrin of people, I think they're somewhat upset when there are buildings going in that are going to be skyscrapers, or at least in their mind what a skyscraper is. Go to New York and get back to me. Those are skyscrapers. What we have here are just tall buildings.
Sure.
So, again, but I think that area down there has been totally revitalized. And for the most part, I think it's been very positive. And, so, I mean, and for us to be working at the Remax Metro down there at 2nd and 2nd, which is right there at the same parking that you would take to go to the Sundial. So what a bonus. They could come talk to us about real estate auctions at the Remax Metro office, and then they could go see the Sundial when they're done. I mean, or at least it's progress. I don't know if it's finished. I have no idea. Somebody could probably call in and go, hey, dum-dum, it's been finished for a while. Or, no, they still have cranes up. I haven't got a chance to go down there and look at it because I've been busy with you selling real estate via auctions.
Well, the nice thing is, too, we're going to get to see all the neat little boutique restaurants and learn more about old St. Petersburg. I was born at Mound Park, which became Bayfront Medical Center many moons ago. And
many moons ago.
My granddad, Doc Miller, was the first chief of staff at Mound Park, and my grandma was the first music teacher at St. Pete High. So talk about old-time connections.
Wow.
And there's still probably some folks that might remember.
And since we're related, it's kind of like my connections.
Well, it's your connections as well. Yeah, it's just one past. I was going to say, I was watching the TV show on Grant, which was great, I thought, too. I like history, I like science, but I thought they did a very good job on Leonardo DiCaprio helped to produce it.
Oh, wow.
Did a good job on Grant, and it's worth watching, in my opinion, and I think all of us need to know. And I learned more about his history and the things he did. Now, you hear about him being a drinker, and you hear about him doing that, and maybe not being a great president, but he did a lot of good things. I mean,
now, I had a history professor way back when would absolutely refute the idea that he was ever a drinker. But, again, I don't know what he read or what sources he was using to discuss that. Now, I do see in a lot of the photos that he took, even though they're black and white and they're old, there looks to be a little bit of a highlight around the nose region of what I'd call the Santa Claus effect in terms of what you see at a mall. I'm not going to say that Santa Claus is at every mall drink, but I think some of them do.
Okay.
I think most of them are great people that do that stuff. But I will say a certain select few do. But I think that was the comparison that a lot of people have made. A lot of historians have made that comment that that Grant was a drinker, but my history professor would have made the statement saying, no, we didn't really understand allergies at that time, but he was pretty sure he was just allergic. He probably was allergic to alcohol, was what I would have said to that. But
well, it was interesting, and I thought they brought out some good points that I really thought helped to give. I mean, I thought I knew history, and I think I do know history. But there again, history is constantly changing, as you said, and the sources you get and what you know and what you think you know may change when it comes to.
Sure, and probably one of the most valuable things that I ever had a history professor tell me is, remember, history is written by the winners.
Yeah, and from their point of view.
Yeah, and that doesn't necessarily mean that that's true. It just means that that's how it's done. I guarantee you, if we had Native Americans discuss U.S. history, they might have a slightly different perspective on how things went. But most,
in fact, they do have a different perspective.
I'd imagine they did, and I think somewhere between our version and their version probably lies the truth, because there's always three sides to every story.
And that's true. Well, and I think that we're here, of course, to help you with. We can talk about history too, but
we can talk about everything here. We can talk about anything, but we primarily are experts in gardening and real estate. So if you have any questions you would like to call in on, it's 813-289-1860, or if you want to call toll free, it's 877-969-8600.
So we're here, and that means we want to hear from you. So give us a call. We've got a couple lines open. As I mentioned, you've got that 877, and what was the kind of car motor you had?
I had 289.
289, and 86 is what?
1860.
1860 will put you on the air with us. So you continue to stay with us as what?
As the plant and real estate talk continue.
You stay with us and give us a call. We want you to be a part of our show. Metro is one of Tampa Bay, Florida's premier real estate firms. Proud to support the Ask Mr. Greenthumb Gardening and Real Estate Show. Tampa Bay is a great place to live, work, and play. So if you're thinking of moving here, or if you're already our neighbor, we want to help. Our RE/MAX Metro headquarters is in downtown St. Petersburg, Florida, with additional offices in Pasadena, Treasure Island, and Terra Verde. Finding your way home is easy with RE/MAX Metro at metroagents.com.
Auctioning your home?
At 725. 725 calls at 740, at 725.
RE/MAX Metro encourages you to auction your Florida real estate. Please go to AFLRE.com. That's A for auction, FL for Florida, and RE for real estate. We achieve full market value for your home. Tired of paying real estate commissions? How about 0% commission for sellers? That's right, sellers pay 0% commission. Again, go AFLRE.com. That's auction Florida real estate. That's AFLRE.com.
Thumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial problems with flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we'll take your calls on trees, shrubs, and the like. We've had a call earlier about palm trees, how to cut them, that type of thing. I had a question the other day about somebody had a big tree they want it taken down. And they said, do you do that? I said, no, I don't do that. Call Carl Utzi Tree Service. They do that. And I said, now, if you want me to inject a tree, I sometimes try to save trees.
Sure.
I saw a tree the other day. It had lightning and hit the tree. Then there's some fungus in the tree. There's some borers in the tree. There's a number of things going on. Well, I think that we can keep this tree growing because it's a big live oak.
Oh.
I think it'll live another 10 or 20 years. And if it does, it could outlive, the homeowner and myself.
And
who knows?
Maybe me, too.
Yeah, no one knows. Yeah, we're here for a very short time. And that's the reason I think, smell every chance you get the beautiful rose, look at the beautiful flowers. We're not here as long as some people think. Well, I'll be here forever.
Right.
No, we're not.
That's a good reminder, too. I mean, that's one of the reasons why, if you have the option to say something kind to your neighbor, even if they have a different opinion, I live in a situation where I have a neighbor across the way. She has a Bernie flag up, and then I've got a neighbor to my right who has a Trump flag up, and they hate each other. And the thing that I find troubling about both of them is I like both of them. They're both extremely nice ladies, and they have a lot in common. And I always tell them, and I'm like, you really ought to put politics aside and go talk to her, because there's a lot you have in common. You probably get along great.
Yeah, I hate to see people hate each other over, and it's almost like our society has become more and more fractured in camps. I'm this and I'm that, and I thought,
we're all great people, and we all have very interesting, different viewpoints. Took me a long time to understand that too about my own wife, in that she has very different political views than myself. But but the reality of it is that it's the spice of life. If we always agreed on everything, how boring that would be. And the other thing I would say is that we try to broaden each other's viewpoints. We don't try to convince the other one that they're wrong, because that's not going to lead anywhere positive. But having a difference of a viewpoint is a good thing. We just can't let that define us. We have to remember that we're all human beings and that we're all good at some level. Okay, and that's the thing I would encourage people to remember even today, is that there is still a lot of beauty in this world, and we can either choose to look at it, or we can just focus on the negative. And I think that's a darker, sadder way to go through this very short time that you just were talking about on this planet.
I agree 100%. Speaking of questions, we've got Mike in Riverview, and he's got a question on oak trees.
Welcome, Mike.
How are you?
Great. Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I have a 20-year-old oak tree in the front yard. The hair was planted around it when we had the house built. Now, fast forward, around the tree there is very little grass left. So my question is, should I reseed or replant? I want to keep it Bahia if possible. What's your take?
Yeah, it's tough to grow. Bahia doesn't like that much shade. It likes full sun. It's originally a pasture grass. So I'm not sure you're going to – how about putting a nice bed out there and either going with a ground cover? I was thinking of English ivy, Algerian ivy, maybe some laripe, jasmine, maybe dwarf jasmine.
What about that, what do they call it, mother-in-law's tongue?
You could. That gets maybe 2 feet or so tall eventually. Okay. You could. It's a toughie, but I was thinking of something – I would probably go with something other than Bahia, because I think your Bahia will start to grow, and then it's going to fade out. And you're going to grow it again, and it's going to fade out.
So he'll be kind of fighting a losing battle, is what you're kind of getting at.
I think that's what you'll do, Mike. And I hate to see, like Don Quixote, after a while, you're going to be tired of being on that little donkey and your long, spear.
And if I could add to what you're saying there,
Right.
A lot of times what people will do is they'll create like a 2-foot bed, and they'll go around the entire oak tree, and then they'll fill it up, and they'll change the grade on an oak tree, and it'll look really pretty. And it does. It looks really nice. But why might you not want to do that?
Well, you're going to hold moisture against the trunk where it's not there, where it's normally not there, and that'll start to get sometimes fungus into the base of the tree. So James is exactly right. I hate to change the grade around a tree very much. If you do, try to keep the soil away from, at least from the base of the tree, the trunk of the tree, because that trunk part is used to being what it's being. The part that goes into the ground is used to being there, but if you start changing that grade by a foot or two, often that will eventually kill the tree. And so I wouldn't do that.
Sure.
And that's a good point to bring out, because a lot of people like to put big stones and big pillars and wooden things, and they can cause trouble long term.
Sure. And so the old adage, what you don't know can hurt you.
Well, often does hurt you and will hurt you.
Right.
And that's true in almost everything we do. But, Mike, does that answer your question?
Somewhat. I was hoping that I could plant some type of grass there. So,
well, maybe St. Augustine.
Area.
Yeah. St. Augustine will take the shade well. It just looks different than your Bahia. But most of the lawns I look at today, often you'll see mixes of St. Augustine here, Bahia out there. St. Augustine likes the shade. It likes more moisture, where Bahia, likes the sun. And, of course, it's kind of like I call it resurrection grass. Bahia will look like it's totally dead and get a little bit of rain, and boom, it comes back to life.
Sure.
Right.
And I think of St. Augustine as being like the Paris Hilton of grasses. It's high maintenance.
It's more fungus prone. It's more chinch bug prone. Yeah, there's a lot more prone to the, we'll give you the Latin name, Stenotaphrem secundatum is the Latin name for St. Augustine, and Bahia is Paspalum notatum, and that $1 will buy you a cup of coffee.
He's great in trivia, though. He's great. Trivia night.
I like to throw it out there. People sometimes say, do you really know anything about gardening? And I go, well, I hope I do. But so, if you want to go with that, the other grass that might take the shade a little bit better would be zoysia. Now, it looks more like Bermuda. It's more of a finer looking grass.
I was just going to ask, would Bermuda be okay under that or no?
Bermuda likes more sun.
It likes more sun.
Bermuda looks great on the golf green.
Okay.
And it looks better with a real mower.
Gotcha.
And the same thing is sort of true with zoysia. Zoysia probably looks better with a real mower cut. The old-fashioned kind of cutter. Which reminds me, I have one in my garage area. I did it for 2 years. I said, I will cut this grass with my old push mower, without a motor on it. And I did it for 2 years. Gosh, was that a lot of work. It took me 5 times longer than what it should take.
Hey, you can skip the gym when you do that.
Well, and those days I did. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, I would be sweating like I had, worked out really hard at the gym.
Sure.
But anyway, Mike, I would say ground covers or St. Augustine, possibly zoysia. Bahia really doesn't like it in the shade.
Sure.
Gotcha.
And you might even pull a pH sample, too, and find out what you got going on under in your soil before you get ready to plant anything, just to see where you're at.
And if he wants to, he can send us a picture.
Yeah, so you can definitely send us a picture, too, of what we would love to see a before and after because then we can feature that on an upcoming Ask Mr. Greenthumb Gardening and Real Estate show.
And how does he send that?
Sure, and you can send that to us. You can go to our Facebook page, which is just Ask Mr. Greenthumb, and that's the Facebook page, or you can go to AskMrGreenthumb.com and you could submit the picture via a question. So you could just send it in to us that way. And we would love to do that and feature that because you're not alone. There's a lot of people that have these types of problems, and we'd love to help many people since you had the courage to call us.
Yeah, Mike, we appreciate that. Let's go on to Ricky in St. Pete.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ricky, good morning, and you've got a question about an areca palm.
Yes, I do. I have a large areca palm, and I've been in this house probably about 15 years, and I'm sure it was well established before. So my estimate is about 25 years or so, and it probably has 80 or so of those canes coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, some of them are very mature. The top's about 25 or so, 25 feet. And I've seen people what I call lifting them up, where they take all the undergrowth out. And then so they're nice and tall, and you can kind of see through the lower canes.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm thinking is, since this is so mature and those canes are so tall, can we kind of do the reverse and go in there and try to get most of the larger canes out and then kind of reduce the overall height?
You can. And in fact, the lovely Mrs. Greenthumb yesterday kind of did that. We have an areca where it's kind of growing up over the deck.
I can attest to that because I hit my head on one of the fronds the other day going, Dad, you got to do something about this.
My son and I built a deck that's kind of circumnavigates the house 1 story up. And so I'm one of the crazy fools that, you might see me riding a bike all the way around the outside of my home.
Only during hurricanes.
Yes, only during hurricanes in my tribute. But so we had this areca that was kind of growing into the deck area. And so,
which is so shocking since you keep everything so pristine and manicured at your house.
I will tell you, I love everything pristine and manicured. I can't tell you. My wife likes everything very pristine and manicured. I'm more like Jimmy Buffett, and that is nature takes care of itself half the time, which is a good rule for sometimes being lazy. But God bless her. She went out there and trimmed off all the old fronds that were coming up that were too tall, and it looks much cleaner now. It looks nicer, and I told her what a great job she did. And I said, hey, I can probably mention your name and get you a lot of work. And she said, yeah, you better not if you wish to, eat again.
That's right.
So
she probably told you to call Yutzi.
Yeah, call Yutzi. Call Carl Yutzi. Let him come out and clean up this palm. But anyway, yes, you can. You can trim that up, and you can kind of reverse it where everybody wants it to be, a little lower, or it'll take out some of the fronds that are growing up too high and out of the position. And there's usually some brown and some other things that they kind of naturally shed, and it kind of looks better when you clean some of that stuff out of the Eureka palms as well.
Sure, and there's one other question pertaining to the Eureka. Like some of them, so the taller canes, or maybe even the medium-sized canes, they put out like a second cane on the main cane.
Mm-hmm.
It's about like 2 feet maybe or so above the ground. So I just call it the side cane. Can you cut the side canes off, or the other way around? Cut the main cane and just let the side cane go.
You can let it go either the top canes or side canes. You can thin some of those out. I mean, the nice thing about the Eureka is it's always sending up. Of course, it's sometimes called the cane palm, and it'll send up another canes. In most cases, you got to be worried about cutting out the top of a palm, because that's where the the bud is. And if you lose the bud,
right,
the queen palm or whatever, the palm, we have to say, via Candias to it. But with the Eurekas, they keep sending up more canes, so you can kind of push it just a tad.
Sure, and if anybody wants to give us a call, they can do so at 813-289-1860 or 877-969-8600.
And stay with us as the Plant Real Estate Talk continues right here on AM 860, The Answer.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside, in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity. And get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
Have you ever thought about auctioning your home?
At 725. 725 calls at 740, 725.
RE/MAX Metro encourages you to auction your Florida real estate. Please go to AFLRE.com. That's A for auction, FL for Florida, and RE for real estate. We achieve full market value for your home. Tired of paying real estate commissions? How about 0% commission for sellers? That's right, sellers pay 0% commission. Again, go AFLRE.com. That's Auction Florida Real Estate. That's AFLRE.com.
Utzi Tree Service, that's YUTZY, is singularly focused on complete customer satisfaction and has been for almost 50 years. From initial contact to service completion, UtziTreeService.com will prove that you have hired the best tree care service available. With the most knowledgeable staff and the most advanced equipment, you can be sure that UtziTreeService.com is the most professional tree care company in the Tampa Bay area. Contact UtziTreeService.com today for the highest quality tree care.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at AskMrGreenthumb.com. Got questions on gardening, real estate, or both? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am Stan DeFreitas, and you are?
And I'm James DeFreitas, and we're back.
We might mention to you, if you want to give us a call, we've got about another 10 minutes on our show. So if you have a question that's burning about trees or plants or shrubs, or maybe something about real estate, there's always folks out there who are saying, somebody said, can you help investors? Well, sure we can.
Sure.
If you're an investor and you want to invest money in real estate, and I still think it's a good place to have some of your money into real estate. I know there's people out there, I look at the stock market and I go, oh, that's great. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Often you win and lose, sometimes even in the same day.
If you're willing to hold it long enough, that's the other thing is, if, in the stock market, if you're a day trader, eventually you're going to lose. Same thing in the real estate market. If you got to get in and get out, well, you're going to make good money, at some level, and you're going to lose some money at some level. And that's the way it is, especially if you're investors. Now, I would say if you're willing to hold on to that real estate long enough, and land, of course, being the long-term investment. People that think of in decades for land are going to do just fine. Mm-hmm. People that think of investments in real estate in months, you get into some trouble that way, and so that's something that people need to think about. One of the things I wanted to mention too with real estate auctions is, one of the things that makes us kind of unique is, first off, one of the things that we do, we don't get into paying out the same kind of thing that you're used to with typical real estate commissions. One of the things that we do is that we deal with agents who've already had a listing. So often what we'll do is we'll take over that listing and we'll guarantee them that they'll earn the same commission that they had with their seller as part of us taking over that listing. And, does a real estate auction work for everybody? No, but it does work in a lot of situations. Now, are we looking for people that are absolutely desperate? No. Are we in a situation, too, where we take everything? No. It has to fit kind of within a certain parameter. And, if we have, the biggest thing for us is that we have to have a motivated seller. The seller has to be willing to accept what the market forces are at the time that he's trying to sell it. He has to understand that, if a property is worth $1 million, that's great, but it can't be, it can't be during a pandemic and think that you're going to get that $1 million. Maybe you do. Maybe you will. Everything is possible, but I would say statistically on average right now, people are having to look at things and they're penny pinching. And that's the same thing as occurring too with people that still have a lot of cash on hand. They still want to look for a good deal. We want to be able to provide a good deal for people, but at the same token, we have to have a meeting of the minds. And so again, we have to have a price that a seller can accept and a buyer is willing to offer. And if that happens, then we can make a deal happen, and we can make it happen via an auction process. One of the things that we do is we charge a buyer's premium. So if a seller is in a situation where they're fairly tight on their mortgage, their loan to value ratio, if they're fairly tight on what they owe on the property in terms of how much they have it mortgaged, right, we can sometimes come in and do things that a traditional real estate company cannot do, because we're going to move the cost and move it over to a buyer, and we're going to charge a buyer's premium. Now, this is something we can do as auctioneers, under an auction type of sale. We can do this. Other agents can't. And so one of the things that makes it nice is that if you're right up against it, we can still make a sale happen, and sellers love it too, because instead of having, we can come up to the sellers and go, hey, are you tired of paying that 3 or 4 or 5 or 6%? Well, how about if we told you 0? That it doesn't get any better than that. 0.
And there are times with people who, as you said, are in a situation where maybe if in traditional sale, they might have to bring money to closing. Yeah, and there's nothing worse than selling somebody's home and then them learning that, oh, hey, I sorry to tell you, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but we're going to have the closing and at the end of the month here, and could you bring $17,000 to close? Yeah. And it takes that wonderful moment and it turns it into a nightmare scenario for them. Now, I will say this. Even if you have to bring money to closing, but it's the right thing to do because your credit's going to get ruined if you don't, it's still the right thing to do. Convincing your seller that that's the right thing to do is a tough thing. Sure. But in certain situations, that makes all kinds of sense. Now, had they brought it to us at the RE/MAX Metro Auctions Division, this wouldn't have been an issue from the start. But it's something that traditional real estate agents have to think about. And if they're not thinking about, I see this mainly in new to the business agents. Mm-hmm. They're not always thinking about, well, at that price, can I actually sell it? Well, that should be the very first thing going through your brain when you take over a listing is how much do they actually own of that property, rather than in their mind, even though that they've signed a mortgage note and all of that, well, I own it. Well, no, the bank owns it. You're renting it. True. Right. So it's something to think about. It brings me to a point, too, where sometimes we'll put up what we call a minimum opening bid. And then often we say, well, we're not going to accept the minimum opening bid, but that's where we start. Right. And yet people will come and go, well, I'm willing to give you a full offer at your minimum opening bid. Right. And the minimum opening bid is just that. It's the place we start at. People sell stuff all day long on eBay. I've seen, I'll give you an example. Probably a year ago, somebody listed a Ferrari on eBay, $200,000 car. Okay, easily a $200,000, and they put a 99-cent starting bid. And I'm sure
that 5 million people said, well, I'll give you a full price offer of 99 cents. And somehow they know on eBay that 99 cents isn't going to buy the $200,000 Ferrari. But somehow that same logic does not translate over to real estate when we put a minimum opening bid up. If a property's worth $1 million and we started at $700,000, somehow they think that the $700,000 is going to get it done. It doesn't, because almost all of our properties we sell with a reserve, and that reserve has to be met in order for the seller to be legally obligated to sell that real estate. Now, one of the things that you can be rest assured on all of our auctions, we've had what we call the come to Jesus moment with the seller, where we've turned around and we said, hey, you better make sure that reserve is reasonable. If you start putting up that reserve and it's $2,000 under what you were just selling it last week for with a traditional real estate transaction, lots of luck to you. Thanks. We don't want it.
It's probably not going to happen.
And it's not going to happen. And that's the other thing, too. When originating agents take over a listing and then they've had the property for 200 days, or in one case, I had a guy say, hey, you want to sell this property? No, I've had it for 1,200 days. You want it? And I'm thinking, and I'm looking at what they were willing to sell it for, and I'm going, no, I don't want it. Jesus could come down, walk across the water, and he couldn't sell it. I don't want it because nobody could sell it.
Right. Yeah. Or somebody will come along and say, I think it's worth $2 or $3 million. Well, what did you pay for it? Well, I paid $500,000 for it, but I think it's worth $2 or $3 million because that's what Aunt Martha said.
Sure.
Well, no, that it's not. You didn't make that in a year. Things may have appreciated, and they have, but they have not appreciated to that kind of tune.
Sure. So, so it has to be a sellable property. I mean, people have to realize that, it can't be the unsellable property that you'd think of with an auction. It has to be something that's real. And the sellers have to be willing to be a horse trader. They have to be willing to negotiate the process. If I hear a seller is firm on a number and they're not coming down and they're not much of a negotiator, that's probably not a client that I'm going to want to take.
Yeah, makes sense to me. We might say, of course, we are at a office now, a new office, and that office is?
It is RE/MAX Metro, and it is in downtown St. Pete. It is right next to the Sundial. So there's like a movie theater complex there. It's been there for a little while, and then, of course, it's been all renovated, and everything looks beautiful down there. There's a beautiful parking garage and everything, and once we get past this COVID thing, it's going to be a wonderful place to walk around and reminisce and do stuff and have fun, and it'll be a great place to come to for auctions.
I think there's like 12,000 square feet in that office. Just amazing.
Yeah, it's an amazingly big office and very metropolitan at RE/MAX Metro.
And we've got some great people down there. Marcus is a great guy, and Rick's a great guy, and all the people we've met so far have just been outstanding, friendly,
and we can't wait to know them all better. So that's going to be a great thing.
We want to thank everybody for being listeners today and telling your neighbors and friends about our show.
Yeah, well, join next week. We'll keep this going.
Stay with us.
Have you ever thought about auctioning your home?
At 725. 725 over to 740, 725.
RE/MAX Metro encourages you to auction your Florida real estate. Please go to AFLRE.com. That's A for auction, FL for Florida, and RE for real estate. We achieve full market value for your home. Tired of paying